Hello, my name is Austin Stam, and it is about 7 o'clock, which is the time for Lead TV, Learning, Education, Aging, Disability. So on this episode of The Difference, I will first be covering different pieces of news and current events occurring in the world of higher education and disability. For my first news story, I thought I would cover President Bush because he recently passed away and he signed one of the most important pieces of legislation to protect people with disabilities. Does anybody know what it is? Or when? It was the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, on July 26, 1990. The ADA prohibits discrimination against people with disabilities. Employers must provide reasonable accommodations. Reasonable accommodation is any change to a job, the work environment, or the way things are usually done that allows an individual with a disability to apply for a job, perform job functions, or have equal access to benefits available to other individuals in the workplace. Basically, equality and being treated as an equal. So it was a really great piece of legislation. It allows for modifying the work site so you can have, flexible time, assistive devices. I work in assistive technology for a college. You can also have other things like interpreters or modifying work schedules. So some examples of the ADA, you have curb cuts. We have here people fighting for injustice and justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, Martin Luther King Jr. And it's a picture of people protesting to help support the ADA. And over here, I have a picture of a bus with a ramp because that is really nice that it made the ADA helped make public transportation accessible for all people. And then this last image is talking about the WCAG standards, which I will go into in later videos, but they are the standards that help promote accessibility for internet and to make sure that the internet is accessible for all people. So the next news story I thought I would cover is smart pens. So Echo Smart Pen is the smart pen that most colleges and universities use. It has a built-in microphone, hence my joke about it, because it's about to maybe be extinct in a year or two because the Aegir Smart Pen is coming. And the Aegir Smart Pen is a new smart pen. It's similar to the LiveScribe 3, if you've heard of that smart pen, in that it has no screen and does not have a built-in microphone. It does have iOS and Android compatibility, but they also say on their website a new Windows app is coming. But they don't mention anything about a Mac app for the Aegir. So sorry, Mac users. 10 hours of battery life, and it's very lightweight. Can transfer handwritten notes to text, EX, like making a Word doc of your handwritten notes, and it can recognize up to 22 different languages. So here are some images of the two different colors it will be coming in. And I think, it will be an interesting pen because if they start to phase out the Echo Desktop, LiveScribe will really be leaning on this Aegir Smart Pen and the new, Windows desktop app that they'll be releasing. I think the big question is, without a built-in microphone, it's going to mean that basically when you're in class, you're going to have to be using your smartphone to record the audio. And a lot of students in colleges don't like to encourage, smartphone use. They rather have the built-in microphone in a smart pen, which is why the Echo Smart Pen is so popular right now. So here's the previous ones, the LiveScribe 3 and the Echo Smart Pen, just showing what else is out there. You can see the built-in screen on this Echo Smart Pen. The Department of Education. So my top story, or my last story, I guess I really want to cover, is the Department of Education. They earlier in the year, Department of Education said they would dismiss cases if the same person filed multiple claims of a similar nature. OCR said they would dismiss if the complaint fit a pattern of allegations or placed an unreasonable burden. This was going to lead to thousands of cases being dismissed. So basically, Trump coming in and putting in, Betsy DeVos for Department of Education, and the OCR, they kind of were changing their legislation to really dismiss a lot of cases, and to be able to really dismiss if the cases were similar of a similar nature, as it said. Now, though, it's changing. The Department of Education is saying they will not dismiss similar cases just because the same person filed or it's of a similar nature. And the OCR said they're removing language that allowed them to dismiss complaints that fit a pattern of allegations or placed an unreasonable burden on the agency. That unreasonable burden was a big issue because that meant they could pretty much dismiss whatever they wanted. So now that that's being removed, it's a really good thing, I think. Now, why are they doing this? Why do you think they've reversed course? The most obvious answer is people were getting ready to sue. There were a ton of lawsuits being filed against the Department of Education and against OCR. So that kind of led to them making these changes. So other changes that the new legislation is putting in: the OCR restores the right to appeal when the department finds insufficient evidence. I think that's also a good thing. The new manual retains the provision that limits the scope of the investigation to the individual allegations. So they're not looking for a wider scope, at least initially. They want to make sure every case just starts off focusing just on the specific allegations. And overall, this is good news for lawyers that file mass complaints to colleges regarding accessibility issues. Now, one of the main people known for filing complaints against colleges for accessibility issues, particularly web accessibility, is Marcy Lipset. This means a lot of her cases will actually be reopened, and she will have a chance to help make college websites more accessible. That's basically what she does. And she's kind of somewhat controversial figure because she is filing en masse against a lot of colleges for website accessibility issues that might not always be noticed or cited by a student at the college. The issue of the day. This is kind of my journal article or issue that I want to talk about. So for today's issue, I'm going to highlight students with hearing impairments. And I saw this interesting article, Learning Experiences of Students Who Are Deaf or Hard of Hearing in Higher Education, case study of South African University. And just a note, I just want to make clear that all the news stories and journal articles that I'm talking about, everything is in the YouTube description. So if you just click on that description, you will see everything is there. So this was just kind of a study looking at the experiences of students in South African University with a hearing impairment. And I think they only interviewed like 7 students, and they were kind of focused on, the obstacles occurring for those students in the classroom, and kind of getting a qualitative, which basically means interview questions and things like of that nature, to kind of get an idea of what they were experiencing in the classroom, what challenges being hard of hearing, creates in the classroom environment. The professor's lips not being in view, that was a big one that was discussed. This could be due to seating. So for example, you coming to class late, you're sitting in the back, difficult to see the professor, you can't really lip read because you really need the professor's lips in view if you want to make sure that you're lip reading, or if you miss a word or don't hear something, you're able to get it. So that can be really challenging if you're sitting in the back and there's big people in front of you and you can't see. Another one was professor just walking or turned away. So for example, professor turns to look at their notes, you can't see their lips. Professor's walking back and forth across the room, can't see them there. Another big thing was background noise. So, if you have a noisy classroom environment, different discussions and things going on, or just, noise from externally, from outside, things, there can be people or, who knows, gardeners with their leaf blowers or something like that. Um, those type of issues can make it hard to hear. I'm particularly thinking in this one, if you're doing a group discussion in class, obviously, then there's a lot of background chatter and it can be hard to hear what your partner is saying. The other one that was really brought up was audio or video issues. Audio or video issues really pertained to there not being captioning for any video or transcription for audio. That was a big one. I think also sometimes professors, they would try and get them to use like a microphone or something like that, and the professor would refuse. So that could be an issue. So those are some things to kind of consider. Quotes from the students. If a student is sitting in front of me, then it could be quite a problem because the sound is away from you and you are not able to lip read. When a lecturer is explaining something, it is frustrating because you can't always hear. So I really do rely on PowerPoint notes. So another piece was just like the notes not being clear. You want to use, have that right contrast with your notes so you're able to see the words clearly. So again, if the notes are poor or they're not available, that can really be an issue for hard of hearing students. So there are some options. One of the ones I'm using right now, as you can see, is live transcription through Google Slides. There's also an app for PowerPoint that does the same thing. They have it, it's an external download, I think through Microsoft Garage, and you're able to get, I think they call it, I want to say live translation, something like that, because they're more focused that you can translate what you're saying to a bunch of different languages, but it also does just captioning. But I think that's a really good idea to have in the classroom because for students who are hard of hearing and for everyone, there are benefits to captioning. I actually can think of an article that just talks about the benefits of captioning. I may bring that up for another segment. But yes, so that is really important to, for colleges to consider, especially if they try and create a more universal design-oriented learning environment. So recommendations, first row or two reserved for students with disabilities. I think that, depending on how big the room is and things like that, you may only need a couple chairs and whatnot. I think the big issue there is you don't want to be singling out students with disabilities. So I think that's something where it's better if, the students can come early. That's always nice because then they're able to just kind of get a good seat without drawing attention to themselves, or, the professor just kind of coyly, reserving a seat or two in the front row for students with disabilities. This is another strategy. I think it'd be a little bit awkward if, there's an actual section rolled off or something, because then, you don't want to call too much attention to yourself. The other one is collaborating with disability services. So again, you could work with them to kind of come up with a plan of how you're going to get a seat near the front and what other services, making sure, like, for example, all the videos are captioned. That's something that I do at my current job. Ensure all audio video materials do have subtitles. A lot of professors forget to do that, and it's really important. So, the students register with disability services. Generally, that tips everybody off to check for captioning for all the materials and transcription. And, making notes available online, making sure the notes are clear and understandable and have a good contrast, and font size is really important too. So let me take some questions, see if anyone in the audience has any questions before I finish.